our attention does go back to a certain degree on the event in Riyadh in Saudi at the weekend. So when Tyson Fury got there in the
Fury
end
again
against Francis Ngannou, don't worry, he hasn't been on. He hasn't changed his mind about you and me, but he hasn't been on. But others have been talking about what might happen as a result of what we witnessed. Now, what we witnessed was Francis Ngannou giving Tyson Fury something of a giant fright in the ring on Saturday night. Matchroom's Eddie Hearn was on breakfast this morning with Ali and Andy and said, do you know what might be next? How about AJ Ngannou?
AJ wants to fight in December if he can. Obviously, we're talking about the Deontay Wilder fight as well. And look, I met Ngannou about 6 months ago. What a lovely man. And he asked me to fight Anthony Joshua. And I took it to AJ and he just sort of laughed and said, look, I want to try and win the World Heavyweight Championship. I don't want a gimmick fight. But the gimmick fighter just beat the lineal World Heavyweight Champion. So all of a sudden, you know, if Ngannou and those guys want to fight Anthony Joshua, it's a massive fight. I know AJ would do it, but he is focused on the World Heavyweight Championship. He's not the type to start laughing and, you know, he's been through it. You know, when he got beat by Ruiz, he got an unbelievable amount of stick. But, I mean, Ruiz is a top 5 heavyweight.
You see, Simon, after what we witnessed at the weekend, there is undoubtedly a market and an audience for AJ Ngannou.
Yeah, I mean, listen, facts matter. And it's very important that Eddie doesn't get himself banned by saying things like Tyson Fury, see him beat the lineal champion, because the fight was won by Tyson Fury. So we've got to get your facts right. It's important when you're saying things, you get your facts right.
Yes.
Other people get very cross.
Yeah.
Do I want to see? I still maintain, despite the ire from Frank Warren yesterday, that fight on the weekend was sports entertainment. It was Disneyfication of sport. And I still maintain that some of the irritation that came our way last week is based upon the fact that Western media was pouring scorn upon this fight. And the real issue was that the Saudis want to be able to be very big in people's eyes and have lots of eyes on the prize. And there was a disappointment that the Western media was peeing all over this Ngannou-Tyson Fury fight and calling it something different. So it was manna from heaven for them that Tyson Fury was so sloppy in that fight that turned it into more of a spectacle than it should have been, really. And it was a completely different landscape. If you look at Tyson Fury in that fight and you compare the intensity of the fight against Deontay Wilder, where he's staring across the ring like a man possessed, using language that we can't repeat on this station, and then you look at the dynamic of the appearance of Tyson Fury against his mate Francis, completely different fight. Do I want to see Anthony Joshua fighting Francis Ngannou? Did Francis Ngannou came across wonderfully, and was he delighted to sail into the sunset with probably his biggest ever purse? Yeah. And is there a case for the ridiculous WBC to put him inside the top 10? Or by their standards, which seem to be quite low, yes, there is a case for that. Would I want to see Anthony Joshua rebuild his career on the back of that, because somehow that looks like it's got credibility, because he did. I mean, yesterday, Frank was telling me off because he was saying, stop running this narrative that Tyson wasn't 100% ready for this fight. Stop running it narrative. It's a competitive fight. So I said, okay, I'll run a different narrative then. The lineal champion of the world, arguably the greatest fighter of his generation, was potentially beaten by a 37-year-old fighter from a different discipline that was making his debut, that had been injured and not fought for 2 years.
Exactly.
Is that a better narrative for you?
And did he say,
no, he didn't think that was a better narrative either.
I mean, there are many respected figures in the boxing world who have had their say on what we witnessed on Saturday night, and no doubt will have their say in if we are to witness AJ Ngannou. One such figure is Billy Joe Saunders, a great friend of ours on this show. Bill, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, lads. How are you?
Good, Bill. Nice to see you. Nice to hear you.
Good to speak to you, Bill. First of all, your take on Saturday night. Did Fury really beat Ngannou?
Well, look, it was a... let's not get it twisted. It wasn't a boxing show. It was an event. More of an event, you know, a crossover, boxing, MMA. I think that, look, you couldn't argue which way it went. You know, I thought it was very, very tight. But, you know, don't forget Tyson is the champion and Ngannou is in Tyson's house. So it wasn't a robbery. It was very close. Could have went either way. And obviously Tyson got the nod. He's the champion. But, you know, it wasn't really Tyson whatsoever. From round one go, I knew he was going to have a tough night, because I know Tyson inside out. And, you know, normally you see him standing up tall, getting behind that jab, using his kids, using his feints. And I sort of, look, if someone said to me, you're fighting someone from the UFC in the boxing ring, I probably would take my eye off the ball a little bit myself. Maybe not go through the fine detail of, right, this is how we need to break him down. Because the reality of it is, a novice, you need to let him look at the right hand and hit him with the left hand. That's what you needed to do. And we know Tyson can do it. He's had off night. Then you got people, slating him and slagging him off, and he's put himself in that position for that to happen. Because a lot of people wasn't fond of the fight anyway. And then obviously, I think a lot of people was secretly loving it, what was going on. Where
true.
Realistically, if Tyson was, a fraction of himself, Ngannou wouldn't lay a glove on him. But I've seen Tyson in sparring. I've seen the way he acts in sparring when he's sparring, certain people. And to me, it was just like he wasn't switched on from word go. And it was like a fair play to Ngannou. It was a lot better than what people actually thought.
Yes, exactly, Bill. Exactly. Here's Simon.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Bill, you and I talked about it about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and Tyson's very cross with me at this moment in time because I've dared criticise him. But I'm in the same camp. I felt
I've heard Mr. Jordan, he wants Jordan versus Fury.
Yeah, all right. I'll take him on in a spelling competition, not a boxing competition, Bill. But look, mate, when you look at that fight, because Tyson made a statement about this fight is comparable to a ping pong player going onto the Wimbledon tennis court and expecting to beat Novak Djokovic. Can you understand why Tyson was not switched on to this fight? Is it simply because, despite his observations that he wasn't, because he underestimated the challenge? Because Frank Warren is telling me, forget about it, he was 100% ready. This was a competitive fight and he was ready for it.
Yeah, look, Frank said that, and, Frank believes that, and, Tyson said he was.
But you're 100%. A fighter, you know different.
Yeah, and if he believes that, but there's a difference, then, a fighter just can't switch on when the first bell goes. A fighter needs to be switched on, and if you remember when we had a conversation on your show,
yeah,
to build up to a fight, you need to be feared. That everything's got to be running through your head weeks before. You have to have that bit of fear inside you. And I think that, when you've got no nerves and no fear and you're going to go in there and, everybody's in his ear, oh, you're going to do this to him and do that. He's a novice. He can't. That plays a big part in it. And I just think Tyson wasn't geared up. He might have been in the gym and doing his sessions, but there's a difference than being in the gym and doing your sessions than actually working on a game plan. This is how we're going to beat this man. This is, we've got to be careful of this shot because this shot could be a very, very dangerous shot for us in this fight. Let's be aware of this shot. So let's make sure we don't land this. I don't think there was not much tactical game plan going into the fight. And Ngannou brought something to the ring that none of us thought he could do. He was moving his feet very, very well for a UFC heavyweight.
Is there any argument in the observation that's being made by certain quarters that Tyson spends a lot of time now leaning on fighters and using his weight, and in this instance he wasn't able to do that, so that changed the direction of the game plan or the ability that Tyson would be able to have to utilise? He did it to Deontay Wilder. He leant on him a lot of times during the fight, sapped his legs. In this instance, a clinch is something UFC fighters survive through. It gives them an opportunity to breathe during a fight.
Yeah, I mean, look, even when they were in the clinches, there wasn't much thrown in the clinches when they were clinched up. So I don't really think that really plays a part in it. My honest opinion, Tyson just didn't turn up to the Gypsy King himself. It was Tyson Fury in the ring that night. And when Tyson gets in the ring and he's not switched on, and this can happen in any sport, when you're not switched on, surprises can happen. Yeah. And I think it was a blessing that he got dropped, because that sort of woke him up a little bit to think, do you know what, I need to step it up here a little bit. And I thought he'd just done enough.
So, Billy, you've joined us live, and we'll ask you live. And I know you had a good discussion with Simon recently. When are we seeing you in the ring next?
We're just waiting on Eddie with a date. Obviously, I think that he was trying to make the Eubank Benn fight. And obviously, I think the date was going to be on that card. But at the moment, what I'm hearing is that Eddie, at the moment, he's just trying to get over a few hurdles to see if he can make it happen this week. So I think this week will be the dying death of what day it is and what day it isn't. But like I say, it's, I'm in the gym twice a day. I'm training and just getting ready for
Bill, how do you feel about being on an undercard of a Eubank fight?
Do you know what, Simon? I'm on the undercard of Ben, really. I'm not even going to look at it like that. But listen, I'll be honest with you. I don't really care where I go. I'm not one of these I'm not being on the undercard here. I'm not. Look, as long as obviously I get looked after fairly, and I'll get the what a show to be on. To be fair, because there'll be millions of people watching it. There'll be thousands of people there, and it'll be a nice way to introduce myself back in.
That'd be good, Billy.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.